Hello, good morning, good evening, and Shubha Sandha. My name is Shamim Arashivli. I'm welcoming you all to today's webinar where we will discussing the recent political turmoil we are witnessing in Bangladesh, which is affecting the religious ethnic minorities in Bangladesh. We will discuss the status and also explore ways to support communities who are getting affected. Today's webinar we have divided into 4 sections, and each one will be presented by an expert. We have the 4 sections I mentioned earlier. The first section where we will discuss history of communal violence against minorities in Bangladesh, and this section will be conducted by Niloy Chakraborty, and monitoring and evaluation expert with years of experience who is working for Internews Bangladesh country team as monitoring and evaluation officer. The next session will be conducted by Shakawat Hossein, who was a journalist but became a program management specialist and currently working for Internews Bangladesh country officer as its program officer. And after his section, we will have Muhammad Abdullah Khan Shoaib, who is by training a fact checker. He is also a social media analyst. He is currently working as a social media monitor for Bangladesh country office. And the last and final section will be conducted by Parvez Siddiq, the Executive Director of Film for Peace Foundation. Let me introduce the Film for Peace Foundation. It is a national peace building organization based in Bangladesh, committed to fostering a peaceful society through innovative and artistic programs, strategic communication, and research. At Film for Peace, they empower artists, youths, and the community to create an inclusive, sustainable, and peaceful community that can overcome different forms of conflict and violence. A peace builder and human rights advocate has established Film for Peace Foundation to empower youth through participatory filmmaking and foster an inclusive, sustainable society in Bangladesh and beyond, I mentioned before. Now I will hand over this section to my colleague, Ariel Magid, who is a program management specialist based in Australia, who is our program officer, Asia. Ariel, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So just a little bit more context to why we're presenting tonight. As part of the Asia Ref Freedom House USAID project that we will be starting with our partner, Freedom Film for Peace. So we will be implementing, I'm probably mispronouncing that, which means unity in English. And our goal is to strengthen the capacity of youth to counter religious misinformation and engage local communities and policy makers to promote interfaith dialogue and build inclusive communities. And although this project was designed before the recent events that happened last month, as you will hear about, you'll see in today's presentation from my colleagues that it is more imperative than ever. So just a few of the key activities that we'll be doing that are related to some of the things you'll hear here. We will be providing peace leadership workshops, which are holistic trainings for 150 youth ambassadors. And these ambassadors will design videos around key trends on religious mis and disinformation and host events and social inclusion events in their communities to develop more awareness. We'll have a policy brief and host a national level consultation with key stakeholders. And the key peace ambassadors will also be eligible for fellowships to create films, music, art, photos, and other creative content that really highlights religious issues and promotes religious tolerance and interfaith freedom. And so this will be showcased at the end as a peace summit, and you will hear a bit more about that from Parvez at the end. So let me get my screen. Over to you, Niloy.
Thank you, Ariel. So my topic is today the history of communal violence against minorities in Bangladesh. So my session today, basically, I designed as a radicalization in Bangladesh, explored in the historical process across different time period. So we have identified four major driving factors in broader scales with our recent desk review and research. So first one is the politicalization of Islamic identity. Number two, exploitation of political identity. Three, social grievance existed in Bangladesh in current time, also in the past. And fourth one is the influence of global jihadist group. So all of the driving factor will be discussed through the different time period, starting from the period of British India partition in 1947. So next slide, please, Ariel. So in 1947, two nation was formed with the process facilitated by the British India government. At that time, based on the religion, the Muslim majority population territory become as a Pakistan, and Hindu majority territory become as a India. During that time, Bangla also was divided. The Bengal region also was divided based on the religion also. The Hindu majority area of Bengal remained with India, which is now as a West Bengal and other neighboring state of India like Tripura and Assam. And Muslim majority territory now become the East Pakistan, now it is Bangladesh. So during that partition time, minority population in India and Pakistan in both countries were being attacked, and 2 million people were being killed that time, and their house was burned, people property was seized and captured. They were forcibly that force this situation forced the minority population of the country left their homeland. So in that time, from Bangladesh, like in past it was East Pakistan, around 3 to 5 million Hindu are being migrated in India, and about 5 to 7 million Muslim population are forcibly migrated to East Pakistan in 1947. That time, the religion identity was become the fundamental of the communal tension. This was triggered by the partition decision based on the religion, and the political leader actually exploited the situation in favor of their political gain and establish their political agenda, and to gain their political ambition and also gain their unethical economic opportunities also. After partition of British India, Bangladesh faced another partition phase as being separated from Pakistan with the independence war, and Bangladesh became an independent country in 1970. During this war, India, with their geopolitical interests, supported the Bangladeshi freedom fighters, and India versus Pakistan rivalry became another triggering point for attacking on the religious minorities as they were labeled as Indian, as most of the Hindu families, relatives of Bangladesh in British India partition time were migrated, and many of them have relatives there. So basis on this, they were labeled as pro-Indian in that time, which is the situation is still now very relevant in current time also. So that Pakistani military and their allied paramilitary force started targeting the religious minority population, mostly the Hindu community. They also targeted the secular nationalists. At that time, the left line politics were banned by the Pak administration. There were the pro supporter for the freedom fighters, and all the Pakistani military also targeted the Bengali intellectual community like progressive minded university professors, doctors, engineers, artists, independent writers, and many of them have provided moral and intellectual supports to the freedom fighter during that time. Hindu and other religious minority groups that time being prosecuted, about 2.5 million have been killed, and a total of 3.5 million of total killing. Some researchers estimated that out of total killing, 60 to 80% were Hindu and religious minority people actually. and 8 to 10 million Hindu population were become the refugee. They left the country during that time to save their lives, and notable massacre also happened in that time in different places of East Pakistan, now in Bangladesh. As one of the notable massacre is the Chupnagar massacre. In that massacre, 10,000 plus Hindu people were being killed at a time. So during this liberation war, with a length of 9 months, religious minority were being executed, minority women were being raped, and they were forcibly converted to Islam, and temples were destructed. And one of the major temple named Ramna Kali temple was completely being demolished that time. So after the independence war of Bangladesh, the first constitution of independent country adopted secularism as the state's religion stance. At that time, many political views opposed this stance, and after 19 bring the military rule by Ziaur Rahman and Hussein Muhammad Ershad, in the constitution, Islam has been established as the state religion. This political decision, welcomed by many political views and parties to gain their Muslim citizens' attention towards that, and that time the supremacy of Islam gradually raised. And every political party, including Awami League, used this process of Islamization in the political landscape, and that contribute a lot to the current situation of radicalization. So during 90s to 2000, Jamaat-e-Islami, the political party, came into the mainstream political activity, and they have jointly formed the government with BNP in 2001. In this time, Islamic hegemony was being shaped in new evolving form. Also during this time, many Islamic radical group has been emerged with influence of global jihadist network, Jamatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, Al Harkatul Jihad Islami Bangladesh, Ansarullah Bangla team, etc., has been exposed their existence, and many independent writer, bloggers have been attacked. Some was also killed that time. But ultimately, the jihadist group rise was not beneficial for Jamaat Islami and BNP that time, and their popularity was not high in the next election. So they cannot form the government in the next election actually. But during this time, the radicalization form in different way, and extremism have become in new shape and way. So in different time period, the state policy, political decisions, and political agenda in Bangladesh has become crucial factor as the driving force towards the radicalization in Bangladesh. That's end of my section. I will welcome Shakwat Hossein for his section. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Niloy, and welcoming you all to my session on Bangladesh recent politics and communal violence. So in this section, mainly the recent political crackdown, I hope you all know about what happened in Bangladesh, and I will try to discuss in under three different points. First one is student movement. So before we move to this discussion, we also need to know one background, and that is before 2018, around 7% of government jobs, allocated for some marginalized group and the descendants of the freedom fighters who mainly fought for the independence of the country in 1971. So in 2018, the students, they thought that this 57% of quota allocation was completely discriminatory, and that's why they demanded a reformation from the former government and the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So amid the massive protest, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina issued one executive order by abolishing the quota from the job selection from the recruitment process. After that, in 2024, I mean early this year, one descendant of a freedom fighter filed a complaint, filed a writ petition with the High Court division of the country, and based on the petition, the High Court division mainly verdicted to reintroduce the quota system as it was before 2018. And the students mainly didn't take it very easily, so they called for a demonstration. And most of the educational institutions across the country joined to protest the decisions of the court and also stance of the Awami League government that time. And after that, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina wanted to stop the protesters by using state forces, and they mercilessly, shoot on the protesters. And as a result, more than 500 protesters, mainly the students and also some of the members of the law enforcers, were brutally killed. But the exact figure yet to be known, because some state-run agencies and also some human rights organizations are still working to find out the exact figure on how many people were killed during the demonstration. And the government also imposed a curfew, shut down the internet to stop the students. But because of the massive number of the students killed during the protest, the general citizen didn't take it very easily, because they were also not so happy during the 15-year autocratic rule of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. That's why students wanted to break the curfew on August 5th. And understanding the consequence of the mass uprising, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned on the same day and fled to India. So after her resignation, mainly Nobel laureate, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Professor Dr. Yunus, he mainly took the responsibility of the government as a chief advisor. So, as my colleague Niloy already mentioned, that because of the stance of the minority group, especially the Hindu communities, in favor of the independence in 1971, they were tagged as the allies of the India, and also they are more aligned with the political philosophy of Awami League government. So that's why when Sheikh Hasina resigned from the country, the country has witnessed a number of attacks on minority communities, especially on the Hindu communities. We have identified around two attacks on minority communities in 52 districts across the country out of 64. And several attacks also took place in different regions of the country on Christian families and also the minorities within the Muslim community, like Ahmadiyas and Shia communities, or the followers of the shrine. So it was the law and order situation of the country very badly deteriorated that time, because after the resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Professor Yunus took the power of the country after 3 days of the resignation. So within 3 days, most of the families were affected. And when interim government took the power, so they also have identified this issue, I mean, the ensuring the protection of the religious and ethnic minorities with high importance. And they also have met with the leaders of the minority groups and ensure that the governments will give all-out support to the minority groups to protect their properties, to protect their religious institutions, and protect their businesses. During that time, we also have found some very good examples of social cohesion across the country. The neighbors of the minority population, they came into the road to protect the temples, the businesses, and also the houses of many minority population. And considering the situation, there are also some different narratives around the conspiracy theory. And the ousted prime minister's party, I mean Awami League, they were saying that the BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and Jamaati Islami, they are responsible for those attacks across the country, while the political parties also give a special attention to protect the minority people, because they want to take gain from them as well, and they don't want to destroy the bilateral relationship with India. That's why we have seen that the activists of some political parties, they also played a very important role to protect the minorities from the minorities. And so far, the situation is better now. But one concerning issue is that the experience, I mean, the terrible experience of the minority people who witnessed the attacks and who really faced the attacks, they are really in a vulnerable situation. And that could result in internal and external displacement. And also it is a huge challenge for the interim government to bringing the minority population to the mainstream community, since they are really in a serious fear of further attack. And that's what the government need to think, and they are also taking some initiatives. But unfortunately, we haven't seen any arrest or any legal actions against the perpetrators who are responsible to attack on the minority communities. Thank you very much. Now I think we will be seeing one video. And Ariel, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. What can you say but thank you for surely one of the greatest football matches that has ever been played, encompassing stellar moments from some of the greatest footballers who have ever attempted to play this game. Mbappe has scored a hat-trick for France, who were out of it. They were done. 10 minutes from time.
So thank you so much for your all of your brief discussion about this. So, and my colleague actually spoke in this all of this incident in various issues, including the history of communalism and recent protests and other things. And now I will actually have a very brief overview about the connection of disinformation and communalism in Bangladesh, and also give a little tour about how it affecting in our information ecosystem around this mass protest and before that. So, and we have, if we have time, so then we'll give a very brief discussion about some action points, like what can we do about right now. So, yeah, as my previous speakers discussed, over this Bangladesh has a long story of communism. All of you know that already. But also there is a history of the misinformation that could increase political tension among these different community. So we see this before that long ago. It could be before this independence and after this independence. It's a very static moment. So in some cases, the misinformation and disinformation create a communal tension, and that could actually lead into a communal violence. But when the internet age started in Bangladesh, I want to say it's after the 2000, the disinformation and communal tension create a new dimension. So, and the rise of the internet space in Bangladesh also, right, and the rise of these communal motivated information disorders. So we can see it in the Shahbag movement. We see it during this Ramu communal attack. And recently we see this kind of misinformation using to create a communal tension in 2021 in Kumilla. So, but we have seen that all of this misinformation in the communal space is not only have communal motives. In most of the cases, and almost always, it's used politically. In every cases, we have seen that the political group is actually trying to achieve their interest through the communal misinformation and when it starts. And sometimes it's very interesting. Sometimes now there is not only the majority political group, some minority political group also using this narrative for different political purpose. We have seen in the case of in 2021 Chatpur incidents, and there's many other incidents. So the point is that another point is that every time the cross-border disinformation always appear in communal tension regarding Bangladesh, because our colleague Niloy Chakraborty said that how the South Asian states are actually previously we live together, we have cultural similarities, we have linguistic similarities. So every disinformation created and originated in this space is actually traveling through the nearest border, nearest country. So now I'll brief a little bit about what happened in Bangladesh after the regime changed and how disinformation and information disorders create different kind of challenges. So when the regime changed and our next ex Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina fled to India, law enforcement and all of the law and order situation on the ground collapsed very drastically. And there is a law, no security forces exist in the ground to maintaining this order. In such situation, ex-ruling party leaders are attacked across the country. It's not just one places. The media has reported that almost every district have some few incidents. But when this attack happened, there is also some minority attack against the minority happened, and also that also reported in different very credible media. But I should put it here as a context that historically a large section of religious minority community seen as the Awami League supporter. So when this attack is actually started against the ex-ruling party, is directly actually converted to all of these minority areas also, who this minority area seen as the Awami League vote bank or something like that. So this is a create a different kind of challenges. The political attack and communal tension merge together and emerge a new crisis on the ground. And I repeated that there is no law and order situation, and that ultimately make this whole situation worse. But when this religious and attack against minority and attack against different community happened, somehow this whole narrative is captured by some political group who are displaced the political settlement, and they're using this narrative against the new regime and new people. So you can see in my slide that there was a lot of misinformation roaming around this time. There's a lot of misinformation. Actually, it's not true, half true, and some information is completely fabricated. For example, you can say that the abduction, a lot of abduction case, a lot of vandalization case, and this misinformation actually increased day by day after fight. Problem is that when this disinformation arises in the much bigger amount, because it's a kind of a massive scale, this actually of fact checking process and different information integrity checking on information integrity different process, because this in Bangladesh and I think in nearest our region, the fact checkers community is very small to address this large kind of disinformation, to confront large disinformation campaign. But that time, fortunately, some people are actually stood by the people. They protect each other on the ground. But the problem is that most of the misinformation is actually originated outside the border. So on the ground, there is a situation. People are trying to control the situation and trying to make a harmony. But if you are going through the different social media channels, you can see a lot of the violence, a lot of the fake pictures, fake incidents. That is actually trust the broke the trust between the community and create challenges. So next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So now I'll just briefly give you overview about the what kind of challenges pose these situations. For example, I already discussed about this. The most of the disinformation campaign is actually conducted outside the border from the India side. So this information campaign is actually not originated on the ground. So there is a very little capacity to confront it by law and order and by information integrity community or by journalism. So that's happened in Bangladesh. So the whole information integrity community and journalism struggle to address it. And another thing is that after this August 5 incident, the political disinformation and communal misinformation merged together. So that is create a new dimension and new challenges of misinformation, disinformation space. And honestly, there's a very few people that actually have capacity to address it properly. So that you can see a lot of people are talking and they actually don't know how to deal with it. And the thing is that why this is create a big challenge. So when this disinformation campaign started, we saw the continuous shift of the entire narrative. And most of the cases, this shift is actually harm minority community. For example, there is a lot of claim about the attack against Hindu in Bangladesh. So, for example, some claim was that 12,000 minority people killed and 15 lakhs minority people displaced. This kind of disinformation is actually roaming around the different social media account. But problem is that this kind of disinformation easy to identify and easy to debunk, and this process is actually, so basically it suppresses this original narrative, the correct incident. For example, there is a lot of attack against a minority community in Bangladesh, but when this right information suppressed by wrong information, the people believe maybe everything is wrong and nothing is happened on the ground. So this is actually create a challenging environment to fact checkers community, to minority community, to journalist community, and whole the nationwide community who believe in the peace and harmony. Yes, thank you. So now I'm quickly just going through a few action points which we identified during our monitoring and during our activity. For example, this is very interesting. The recent incident actually pushed us to think about the action different way about information integrity, because previously a lot of people believe that the confronting disinformation is only a fact checker's job or only a certain people's job. But when this incident emerged, we say that the fact checkers and the small group of people are not enough to confront and not enough to debunk all of this narrative or all of this false information and all of this information disorder. So we need to, and that time we believe that we need to explore the alternative strategy to address this information disorder. So there's a three action point that we identified during our work. So once we need to build a community level resilience, which help to bring different community in this space and train them how to deal with the information disorder during the crisis. And two, to train information integrity community not only just about fact checking and debunking misinformation, but also train them about to deal with information warfare, for example, influence operation, for example, troll campaign that we have seen during our last months. And last but not least, we need to hear from community level activists, and also we must have include the minority community in our process to make an assessment what they and how can we actually create an alternative strategy. So yeah, that's the few things I wanted to share with you. So now I am handed over this space to my next speaker. Thank you so much.
Hello, this is Parveez Siddiqui from Film for Peace, a non-profit dedicated to fostering a peaceful, inclusive, and sustainable society through innovative programs, strategic communication, and research. Today, we will discuss about the trade and religious and ethnic freedom, and also way forward. First, we will talk about the threat to religious and ethnic freedoms, the growing tension facing our minority communities, particularly in light of recent communal violence, internal and external displacement, and ongoing threats. These challenges undermine our social cohesion and the fundamental principle of justice and equality. So, what are the key challenges? Safety and rights of the minorities is very challenges at this moment, and that our colleagues already discussed about the fact, and also displacement, both internal and external, and also it's a impacting in long-term social cohesion in the community, and as well as we need to think about the tension and ensuring justice for our minority communities as well as religious and ethnic freedom is at risk. So our minority communities face a range of challenges, including these discrimination, harassment, violence, limited access to justice. So we need to work for them, and that threats have a profound impact on their lives, fostering division, mistrust, and erosion of social cohesion. So, what will be the way forward? So we need a comprehensive approach, and we observe in the community level the major challenges our minority community is facing in the community. So we need a comprehensive approach that is must be multifaceted approach and comprehensive. So first we identify the community level intervention that is we can do fostering strong inclusive communities is essential. Initiatives should focus on dialogue, understanding, and cooperation among different groups through innovative and artistic programs, strategic communication. Because recently we observed that the attack in community is very innovative, and also misinformation, disinformation. Already my colleagues shared how they're spreading the hate crime. And another important threat is threat to justice and accountability. So we must advocate for policies that protect the rights of minorities and ensure that justice is delivered promptly and impartially. This includes strengthening legal framework, improving access to justice, and holding perpetrators accountable. Already, my colleague mentioned that still no perpetrator was arrested on after the attack on minorities. So and our police is very weak now. Already they're still not active in their duty station after the violence. So we have to do policy advocacy to ensure the justice. And thirdly, we think the interfaith intervention, we observe that the madrasa students and religious groups and Muslim groups who stand together to protect the Hindu temples and other things, that's important minority temples. So we can initiate interfaith dialogues initiative can that promote mutual respect and understanding. Fostering religious tolerance and harmony is crucial for a peaceful and cohesive society. So that is also if we think that is very important, and and then social cohesion is very important especially in these activities, that we should actively promote factors that contribute to social cohesion, such as we can educate, we can create economic opportunities, and also cultural exchange can promote social cohesion. And finally, I think that's very important that we observe. Already, my colleague mentioned that political ideological initiative is the behind the all minority attack in Bangladesh recently. So political commitment is very important. So we have to sensitize political parties on peace and tolerance. Political parties must be sensitized to the importance of peace, tolerance, and inclusivity. They should avoid rhetoric that promote division and discrimination. So finally, the challenges faces our minority communities are complex and it's multifaceted that I may already mentioned. However, by working together, we can create a more just, equitable, and inclusive society for all. Let us commit to building a Bangladesh where every citizen, regardless of their religion or ethnicity, can live with dignity, safety, and respect. Thank you. If you have any questions, we are ready to answer. Thank you so much.
Thinking about the way forward in Bangladesh, obviously some sort of truth and reconciliation process is going to be necessary. And so I was asking really the entire panel if there are particular mechanisms that might be considered, particular mechanisms that might be most suitable to the Bangladeshi legal context in particular, that we can consider, especially as the international community, that we can consider supporting, but also thinking about how those processes can be designed to ensure that the rights of minority communities are protected during the truth and reconciliation process.
Thank you, Nolan, for your questions. Maybe I can start and my colleagues can contribute later. So yes, we have both community and advocacy level activities. I mean policy level activities that we will address, try to address the issues that needs policy level intervention. We'll definitely will reach out to the respective organizations that are mainly responsible to ensure justice, ensure the protection of the minority communities through some national level consultation. We'll be definitely addressing. And also we have a number of activities in the community level that will be helpful to identify the factors of social incoherence and also way forward how we can resolve these issues through engaging multi-religion participants. So that is the one thing. And the other thing is that even though we designed this project before this context, but we have already contextualized some of the component considering these issues, and we also have some important considerations that we will definitely incorporate into the project while we go for the implementation. Thank you very much. If any of our colleagues can complement here.
Yeah, Shakot, thank you so much. I think our project design is we call it 360 degree, where we are intervening in the community level as well in national level, both in policy advocacy and also community empowerment and youth empowerment activities, as well as we are also involving religious leaders and interfaith leaders over here. So I think it's a very comprehensive approach we are doing from our side. Thank you.
Great, thank you guys. Any other questions?
I'm curious, and I think you covered this a bit in sort of your overview of sort of the history of Bangladesh and sort of the moment we find ourselves in now versus say 6 months ago. But from a freedom of religion or belief perspective, do you see sort of new opportunities for protection of religious minorities and minority ethnic groups that sort of have come up now that we may not have seen otherwise? And sort of what are things that actors sort of within the country or for those of us outside can be sort of supporting that people may not have thought about sort of before recent events?
Actually, in current situation, we have found a number of community engagement to protect the minorities in Bangladesh. So there is a huge opportunity for us to engage more the majority community to protect the minority communities. So community leaders can play a vital role as a mediator to solve the issues, inter-community conflicts, something like that, and also fact checking and misinformation prevention activity can be done also, like forming a rapid response team. They can quickly identify and uh, debunk the issues, and then they can circulate to the newsroom so that the actual news can be covered, and also public awareness campaign can be done. And other thing is that contribute to the harmonious narratives by creating platform for positive contents, engaging influencers, social influencers and celebrities for creating harmonious narratives, monitor and report the media biases, something like that, and support the grassroots level initiative like partnering with local organization to support the interfaith dialogue and promote the plurality, something like that we can do. So there is a huge opportunity to work in this ground. Yeah.
Niloy rightly mentioned that now we are witnessing a huge opportunity. I mean, the organization who has been working for promoting peace building and religious freedom couldn't have much opportunity to speak up and work very their show their visibility. They have facing limited freedom of expressions and maintaining a very low profile because the previous government, I mean political government, never wanted to hear that this violation actually exists in the society. But now situation had changed. We have witnessed that the minority communities, the Hindus, they held a huge rally in Dhaka after Sheikh Hasina fled, and they faced attacks and abuses in different places. Even people in the hill tracts, Chittagangs, they are actually speaking up, they are holding rallies. So we believe now we can have more freedom of expressions, and utilizing this, if we can reach out to policy level and can do our advocacy properly, there are possibility that we can help reform the policies towards minorities and religious freedom that are hindering actually the peace building. Thank you.
Yeah, the very positive things I would add with Shamima, that is our interim government, the chief of interim government advisor, and also the religious advisor. They are very positive of the protect of the minority rights issues and also freedom of expression, as well as the youth. Youth are very positive, and youth they are playing huge role because the movement was carried out by the youth. So our project design was for involving youth more. So that is the great opportunity for us that rightly mentioned that earlier our freedom of speech was very limited. But now, as government is also looking for to create a space for civil society, as well as they are also concerned about the rights of the minorities. So that is the even the artists of the country, they're also concerned. Before this interim government, it was really so threat to the freedom of speech. But now everyone speak out. That I rightly mentioned about this demonstration by the minority groups, the ethnic groups, and others. Thank you so much.
I'll quickly just add one point in our permission integrity perspective. So when I continuously talking about how the disinformation campaign is actually originated and came from outside the border, but one positive things we are continuously experience that the minority people, especially the youth community from Bangladesh, they are very much vocal against it, and they are helping the fact checkers community and disinformation research community to providing ground level experience. For example, when we are working on this verifying some incident in Chittagong and Feni, some young minority students who I'm not familiar with him before that, but he knocked me over the Facebook and providing some evidence that, okay, you can say that there is nothing happened here. It's a situation is tense, but we are watching each other, and some people are actually we are create a group to protect each other. So that's a positive spirit. And now, so that's why I'm also talking about action point. So I think it's a high time to build a community level resilience model. So in disinformation research community, we are now exploring a different kind of approach. We call it narrative debunking. So narrative debunking is an approach that is not just claim verification or something like that. It's more like creating a community who instantly responded during the crisis and make a automatic resilience against the disinformation, the disinformation campaign that might be started during some kind of crisis, because in our region this kind of crisis is, and unfortunately, it's common. So yeah, that's the thing I want to add.
Great. Well, I think that was our only questions. So, with that, I would like to thank everybody for joining us tonight or today. This morning, it's tonight over here. And yeah, get in touch if you have any other questions, and hopefully, we look forward to seeing you again later. And yes, thank you all for joining.